Hello, this is Anna Danley, and this is my presentation for the EDUC 566 Participatory Learning. This is my final project. The research question we had is, how does engagement in participatory culture promote literacy? That was our big issue that we kind of came up with as a group. And then we created individual plans to answer that question. So how can we include students to empower them to discuss literature and cover the Common Core state standards while promoting literacy in a participatory way that really involves engagement and social learning as well. So here are the learning goals I selected. We're going to start with a quote from Jenkins. He says, what they need to create change in their communities depends on significantly where they're at in their lives. There's no doubt that specific experiences often trigger engagement that can lead to becoming an empowered activist. People don't simply wake up one day empowered. Activism is cultivated. And so I felt that that was a very powerful quote, and I'm hoping to cultivate this kind of activism in my classroom through the themes that I chose for my literature group, but also through their own participatory culture. So these are the Common Core state standards that I selected from English 11 and 12. We have reading number 1, which is cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text, which can connect back to social justice and democracy, including determining where the text leaves matters uncertain. And then the second reading standard I have picked out is determine 2 or more themes or central ideas of a text and analyze their development over the course of the text, including how they interact and build on one another to produce a complex account, provide an objective summary of the text. And I also have writing standards selected. The themes that I chose for the books, the book titles, is Overcoming Adversity. The one we're reading right now, Ariana Grande's A Dream Called Home, definitely has that. Chasing the American Dream, Culture and Identity, Inequality, and Social Justice are our kind of themes from the different books we have. So the first writing standard is write arguments to support claims of analysis of substantive topics or texts using valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence. Writing number 9 is draw evidence from literary text to support analysis, reflection, and research. And then the speaking and listening skill is initiate and participate effectively in a range of collaborative discussions with diverse patterns on 11 through 12 topics, texts, and issues, building on others' idea and expressing their own clearly and persuasively. And then here is kind of specifically the speaking and listening standard I'm specifically focusing on here for my literature circles is work with peers to promote civil democratic discussions and decision making, set clear goals and deadlines, and establish individual roles as needed. So those are really important speaking and listening skills. Okay. So next, after I've just discussed our learning goals, this is how I'm going to assess them. Another great quote by Jenkins. Today's young people are expressing their political visions, often in a language taken directly from popular culture and through mechanisms and practices inspired by participatory culture. So I wanted to model my assessments kind of close to how they would already be engaging in participatory learning. So my formative assessments are students will select a book and complete assigned reading goals. I will have about 5 titles that they can choose from. They will also complete writing based on chosen roles in their literature circles. Their writing will be evaluated based on the Common Core state standards for reading, writing, and speaking and listening. And students will post these assignments on their classroom blog, which I've created. Here's the final summative assessment is students have a final option choice board that includes a universal design for learning format, including a video, podcast, essay, letter, slides presentation, iMovie trailer, and more as part of their options. And here are the materials that they'll need. Wright, in Wright's article, he was referencing some literature. He says Ajaya, 2013, found that ELA teachers perceive new media technology to be crucially important to students' learning and social lives. These same teachers, however, felt that they lacked access to even basic technologies. One of the requirements of my unit is that they have access to at least Chromebooks and Wi-Fi access as well. Also, they will need a copy of the norms and behaviors, which I provided in an infographic. They will need copies of the literature circles questions and materials, and they will also need electronic and paper copies of the novels selected for the unit. And here is a copy of my infographic that I created where they're reminded to be human and be kind to one another in writing. There are certain standards of behavior that you would be expected to see in an academic environment. You need to know where they are and read the room. Also respect other people's time, be prepared, make yourself presentable online in videos, and also in your writing, no flaming, no insulting, no getting toxic. Respect other people's privacy, no posting other people's responses on, other places without their permission, that kind of thing. So after kind of understanding those norms, understanding their expectations, I'm going to go into the unit plan. So I have the weeks mapped out by chapter. Of course, it's kind of general. Each book is going to be a little different depending on how many chapters they have to read. So each week they will be doing the reading in class with SSR, and then a little quote and analysis kind of warm up every day in class. And then each week they will have a discussion with their peers in person, where they will prepare for their blog posts. And the blog posts will be done weekly. So at the end of the unit, we're going to have a final project where they'll have a week to prepare and get their kind of materials together. And then they will follow up with their presentations and share those projects with the class. The projects can also be shared on our blog too. And so I created a student blog for my literature groups where they have specific roles. And I will go over that in a moment. Okay. So finally, student choice is a really important component of participatory culture. It also helps support diversity learners. So each student is going to be able to choose a role in their literature circle. I have discussion leader, reporter, investigator, passage master, illustrator, inference maker. So they can choose, and these are all open-ended type of questions and discussions to really promote kind of critical thinking and meeting those state standards. And then they also get choice for the book. They get one of 5 options, and they also get choice for the final project options. So they can create a timeline, create a social media post, their profile on main character, etc., include comments from the minor characters as well. Write a letter to a character. What would you say to this character at the end of the story? Post this letter on the classroom blog. Write a letter to the author. What do you want to say to the author? What do you want to ask the author about the book? Also, this is going on the classroom blog. Create a podcast that involves an interview between 2 of the characters in the book. Interrupt the podcast with a public service announcement that covers the theme of your book. Your podcast should be no longer than 10 minutes. I'm trying to keep time frames because otherwise it could go on for a while. Create a trailer for your book using iMovie. Select 2 important quotes, or imagine that you are a psychologist and analyze the behavior of one of the characters. Use outside research to support your analysis. So these are all options. The blog that they're going to post their projects on is going to be the audience is going to be everyone in their section. So all of my sections of 11 will be able to see, the final projects. Same with my 12th graders if I choose to do this with them as well. And then, so here are my resources that I use for this presentation. And thank you very much. I learned a lot from this. I really hope it does promote literacy on my campus, which does seem to be kind of a huge problem in that their reading levels are not really where they need to be. So hopefully this will help kind of promote that in the classroom. Thank you very much. And I really, really did learn a lot from this project.